Well, hello and welcome to the new episode of Wolfie's Wheels. In this film, which we're going to be making over a few days, you see me try and fit a couple of modifications to the fuel system on Raymond the 2CV. You may recall in previous videos I had trouble starting the car, and it was suggested to me that I could prime the carburettor by getting some fuel directly into it. And that was Mick Popka came up with that, and he also kindly suggested that perhaps I ought to put in a non-return valve into the fuel system and possibly a fuel filter, one of which fits before the fuel pump and the non-return valve fits the carburettor side of the fuel pump. So now I've got the suitable package which has arrived through the post with all the bits in that I need to do it. So this video will actually show the fitting of those. Now, as you all will all know, I'm no expert in the garage at all, and I'm not saying this is the right way of doing it, or the best way of doing it, or the safest way of doing it. However, it's the way I did it. So we'll have a look at that in a couple of days, because as yet I'm still waiting for some other parts to come through which I'll need to complete the job. So in true YouTube style, we actually have some unboxing to do live on air. I say live, it's a film of course, so it isn't quite live, but I've not done this before. So we have the trusty penknife. I shall have to put the glasses on as well, on the basis that I might take my fingers off otherwise. And here is the package, and we'll have a look to see what's in it. And then the pieces here. So, and many thanks to Mick Popka. This here is the non-return valve, which fits in between the carburettor at this side and the fuel pump at this side. On it is a small arrow there that indicates the way that the fuel must flow, because obviously if you put it in the wrong way up, then it's not going to work. So we'll have the fuel pump here, the carburettor here, and this non-return valve in between them. The second thing that I've been sent is this inline fuel filter. Again, just here it's got a marking on it that shows you which way around you've got to fit it, and this will fit in between the fuel tank and the fuel pump. My plan is to fit it towards the fuel pump, very much near the fuel pump end, and see how we go from there. I mean, it's a good idea to have one of these in. There is also a small filter in the carburettor, but this will actually stop any crud getting as far as the fuel pump, whereas the one in the carburettor, the crud has already got through the fuel pump, possibly damaging it, who knows. And there you go. So I just need to wait now. I'm also replacing the fuel pipes. That's actually the pieces we're waiting for, because I don't know how old the fuel pipes are on the car. So I couldn't see a lot of point in cutting into the fuel pipes, fitting these new things, and then having to change the fuel pipes at a later date. I might as well just wait for the new fuel pipes to come through the post, and then in a day or two's time we'll be out in the garage and tinkering around. So it's a couple of days later now, and the packaging has arrived. I've got it through Amazon, and in here is the fuel pipes. I ended up getting slightly more than I expected to in terms of the kit, because it was actually cheaper to buy pipe that came with 2 fuel filters and 10 clips than it was to try and buy just the fuel filter and the clips that I'd need. So let's undo this one. And there we have it. So 2 meters of fuel pipe, a couple of fuel filters, and 10 clips. So obviously the next thing we're going to do is going to go out into the garage and fit the items. So I'll sign off just for a few minutes. So we're in the garage now, and the first thing we need to do is to cut this piece of hose to length. I'm going to do the bit that goes between the carburettor and the fuel pump first. I've got 2 meters of the fuel pipe, but I think it's more important to put the non-return valve in than the fuel filter, so I'm going to start doing that one. So there's not a lot of point in showing you how to take this pipe off because it's a bit dull. So I shall take that pipe off and get the other one cut to length, and we'll take it from there. So we have the old fuel pipe off. A bit more of a fiddly job than I expected it to be, having done it once. And the new fuel pipe. So obviously I'm going to put this valve, non-return valve, in the middle of that pipe. So I really want it to be on the vertical part because the pipe in the car as fitted comes up from the fuel pump and hooks around like that into the carburettor. And I really want it on this vertical part as opposed to this curved part. Plus I don't want the pipe to be any longer than this pipe. So I need to take into account when I cut the pipe the difference between here, because if not it would end up obviously way too long. So I'm going to cut the pipe, assemble it, put this in, and talk to you in a minute. So I've cut the first bit of pipe. I've just started to push the valve in. As I say, just be really careful to make sure that this arrow is going in the right direction of flow, which is going to be an easy mistake for me to make. It was just worth double checking. So there you go, got the first clip on. I just need to put another clip on at the bag. But the set massively big, so I might as well wind it in quite a long way before we even attempt to put the clip on. Right, so I've got that assembled. I just need to now finalise it at the same length as the old pipe. Doesn't actually seem to have made a massive difference to the length if you look, so I might not actually bother to do that. I'm going to just offer it up first and see what it looks like. Well, I don't just love bodgery at its best. So I've decided I wanted to put this valve in on the vertical part as opposed to the turn. What I'd completely failed to take into account was the size of this valve and the lack of clearance down here, which means in fact it won't fit. So I'm going to have to do it again and get it right this time. So although I've got plenty of pipe, I didn't really want to waste any, thinking of the polar bears. I've managed to change the direction of flow on this, and I'll be able to use this pipe, but I'm also decided I'm actually now going to do it in situ. So I'm going to put this bit on the car, then I'm going to cut the next bit of pipe to length to fit between the carburettor and there. You live and learn. Well, it hasn't gone that well getting this hose on the bottom end because of course it's rubber and it's fairly hard. So in here is not actually a cup of tea or anything for me, but it's just some hot water. Dunk the hose in it. It makes it more malleable. It'll make it hopefully will then fit over the fuel pump end. You know, straightforward 5-minute jobs and all that. Don't you just love it? Well, it took a bit longer than I thought to get that bit on. Dropped the bloody screwdriver in the engine and it took me ages to recover it. And managed to dig lumps out of my hand so doing. Well, there it is. I'm not really happy with that because that has kind of got to go onto there with a pipe. So you're going to have to sort of pull it around quite a long way. I know it's going to be all right. Yeah, that works. That works all right. It's just me. So here we have the final installation of the non-return valve. The idea is that it stops fuel flowing back down into the fuel pump and then perhaps even beyond. If you're not using a car for a while, it just aids restarting because there should still be fuel left in the carburettor. The fuel pipe goes down there towards the fuel pump. It does run very close to the exhaust manifold, but so did the old one, and so do others that I've looked at on the internet, so I guess it must be okay. I think, right, so we're underneath the car now, and this here is the pipe that goes back to the tank. and this is the one that goes up to the fuel pump. Originally I was going to replace this hose. I have bought 2 meters worth of hose, but it looks to be in very good condition, so rather than make more of a job than I need to, I'm just going to go with this old hose. Here is of course the ideal place to put the fuel filter, because as we come out you can see it's sort of going to be fairly accessible for replacement. There is some fuel in the tank. There's about a quarter of a tank full, so I'm going to have to drain some fuel out, because of course as soon as I make a cut here, fuel is going to come out. I've got cans in which I shall put the fuel, so rather than literally watch paint dry or fuel drain, I'm going to make a cut here. I'm going to put the fuel can underneath here and let the petrol drain out as much as it can, and then we can carry on. Now, of course, if I really knew what I was doing, I might have drained the fuel tank first, and then that could have been draining while I was doing the other end, but I didn't. Such is life, ho hum. So here we have the fuel filter. Let's get a torch, see a bit better. In situ. The cable tie is just to stop the whole thing sort of rattling about too much. The fuel pipe just here, I'm not particularly happy with this longer pipe, because it feels a little bit brittle, particularly just there. So I don't know whether that's a job that I'm going to have done as well. But to be honest with you, I might get one of the experts to do that, because frankly I ended up swimming in petrol a bit, and I really didn't enjoy myself, and that is going to go all the way back to the tank, and is potentially going to be a bit of an aggravation to sort out. Anyway, I'm going to go in the house now, clean myself up, get rid of all the petrol off of me, and then we'll try and start Raymond and see if the fuel filter and the other bit are successful. Right, so we've done the job. Let's see if we can get Raymond to start. So let's see how this goes. It'll obviously take a bit of cranking to start with to get the fuel through. There. Job's a good one. Go and put all the tools away now, and we'll go back in the house and I'll just do a little wrap up piece, because there's a couple of things I just want to add to the film. But that job was a bit more horrible than I'd even anticipated, and believe me, I'd anticipated that it was going to be a fairly messy job. In the end I didn't drain down the fuel tank completely, because of course it occurred to me that if I had a 6mm bolt I should be able to shove that into the end of the pipe coming from the tank where I'd cut it, which would have reduced the, well, actually got rid of the flow completely out of the fuel tank. So I did that. After I finished filming, I thought again about how I'd fitted the fuel filter, and I wasn't over happy with it, so I sort of did that again. But what I did this time is I put a longer piece of pipe on the tank side of the fuel filter. One of the issues I've noticed is that the thinner fuel pipe that comes from the tank is actually quite brittle, and it doesn't bend as soon as you try and push it in or anything. It just literally folds. So I suspect that that's going to be a replacement job, and probably not by me. But as you saw, Raymond started very well. So I will call that a success, although all it does to me is emphasise why I chose the career I did and not that of a mechanic. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe should you choose to. Give it a thumbs up if you want to, and leave any comments in the comments below. And I shall look forward to seeing you in a future edition of Wolfie's Wheels. Bye.